Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're looking at the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem and its growing impact on DeFi. And we're going to be taking a close look at the HBR DeFi Corner report to really get into what's driving its recent growth and what we can expect for the future of this platform.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time to be watching Hedera, that's for sure. And all the recent data really suggests this surge of activity, especially in the DeFi
You
space.
can say that again. The report paints a very vibrant picture.
Yeah.
And it's backed up with some pretty impressive numbers. So let's jump right in and start with that 113% increase in Hedera's total value locked over just the last month. It's reached $353.6 million now. And for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with TVL, it represents the total value of all the assets that are locked within a platform's DeFi protocols. So it's really a key indicator of, user confidence and adoption.
It's a big jump for sure. And it shows us that more and more users are trusting their assets to Hedera's DeFi ecosystem. But TVL isn't the only thing to look at, of course. We're also seeing a bit of a decline in TVL if we measure it in HBAR instead of USD. And that's likely because users are, locking in profits when the price of HBR fluctuates.
Makes sense. Those savvy investors always looking to take profits, especially in a volatile market. But even with that dip, the overall growth in USD is still pretty remarkable,
Hmm.
right? And it's not just about the value locked either. The trading volume tells us a lot too. We're seeing a massive $324 million monthly DX volume on Hedera. So clearly there's a very active trading environment there.
Yeah, and if you look closer at that trading volume, the details are actually really interesting. The growth of stablecoin liquidity, specifically USDC, that's something to note. It's hit $6.13 million, and a lot of that's driven by big institutional players. So what this tells me is that these major players, they see the potential of Hedera for serious financial applications. It's not just, small experimental projects anymore.
It's really interesting to see stablecoins become like the foundation of DeFi, isn't it? They
Yeah.
provide that stability and predictability you need for all these complex financial transactions.
Absolutely. And the way Hedera is using stablecoins to drive DeFi innovation is pretty fascinating. Like, take Bonsai Finance, for example. Their whole approach to single asset staking of stablecoins minimizes the risk of something called impermanent loss, which is a big concern for a lot of DeFi users.
Now, for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with the ins and outs of DeFi, could you break that down a bit for us? What is impermanent loss exactly, and why is it so important to minimize it for user confidence?
Sure thing. So impermanent loss, it happens when the value of your staked assets changes compared to the assets you initially put in. It's just an inherent risk in a lot of DeFi protocols, especially the ones that involve providing liquidity to a pool with two different assets. Now, what Bonsai Finance does is focus on single asset staking, which removes that risk for stablecoin holders. So it encourages more people to participate in lending protocols, and ultimately that leads to more liquidity, which is good for everyone in the
Oh, yeah, that
ecosystem.
makes a lot of sense. Creating a more user-friendly environment is key for attracting both, experienced investors and newcomers to DeFi. And Hedera seems to be doing a good job of that.
And there's more happening in the lending space too. We've got Stader Labs offering a 4.56% APY for liquid staking, which is way higher than the 0.12% native staking APY.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Uh,
What do you think about that? Is that a sustainable model for Stader Labs, or could it have an impact on people's participation in native staking?
It's a moving target for sure, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. High APYs are obviously attractive to users, but you have to understand how they work and if those rates can really be maintained in the long term. As Hedera's DeFi space grows and more users come in, we might see these rates adjust. It's about finding that balance between attracting users and keeping the ecosystem healthy and stable.
So far, we've been talking mostly about DeFi. But Hedera's ecosystem is a lot bigger than that. The HBR DeFi Corner report shows some pretty impressive growth in their NFT market, too.
Yeah.
We're talking 131% surge in market cap, up to $154.5 million now. And sales volume is up by a crazy 118% to reach $1.9 million last month. So clearly there's a big and growing interest in Hedera NFTs.
It just shows that Hedera can build this lively, diverse ecosystem, and that Bonsai Finance NFT sale that sold out in just 30 seconds. That's a great example of the demand and the excitement around Hedera NFTs.
30 seconds, wow, sounds like it was crazy. But what was driving that demand? Was it all speculation, or were there actual uses for those NFTs within the Bonsai Finance ecosystem?
That's the important question, isn't it? If you want to know the long-term potential of NFTs, you have to understand what makes them valuable. Was it the artwork, the utility, or just the hype that made that sale happen? If we figure that out, we'll understand the Hedera NFT market a lot better.
Which brings us to another important point, the innovation driving Hedera's growth. So let's take a look at some of the key players in the report and what they're doing. Starting with SaucerSwap, they've managed to hit a pretty impressive 7.93% single-sided staking APY.
That's a pretty eye-catching APY for sure. And it comes from a mix of things. You've got those increased trading volumes, and then SaucerSwap has been really smart about optimizing their fees. So they're pulling in lots of users looking for some passive income in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And for people who want more than just passive returns, H Suite is doing something interesting. They've got this new deflationary NFT subscription model and a smart app marketplace. It's a pretty unique way for users to engage with the ecosystem.
It is. It's a really clever approach. By connecting NFT ownership to access and benefits within their platform, H Suite is creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. Basically, it encourages long-term participation and supports token deflation. I'm curious to see how this model develops and if it inspires other similar projects in the wider Hedera community.
Innovation seems to be everywhere in the Hedera ecosystem, doesn't it? Another good example is Serial Finance and their upcoming NFT sale. They're incorporating AI-driven risk management.
Yeah, the use of AI in DeFi, that's something to watch closely. In Serial Finance's case, they're using AI to assess and manage the risk connected with their NFT offering. It could be a real trendsetter for more sophisticated and secure DeFi products built on Hedera.
They're definitely pushing the boundaries. And speaking of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
eSwap, the DX aggregator, they're always refining their platform. They've got things like selectable routes and tokenless loading timeouts, which are great for users.
Oh yeah, those kinds of improvements really streamline the user experience. It makes it much easier and more efficient to navigate the Hedera DeFi space. And they're talking about adding yield aggregation in the future. So it looks like they're going to give users even more advanced tools to maximize their returns.
It's all about giving users more options and more control over their assets,
hmm
right? But Hedera is thinking ahead in other ways, too. They're already preparing for the quantum era, which could completely change the blockchain industry as we know it.
Quantum resistance sometimes gets overlooked, but it's absolutely vital if you're talking about the long-term viability of any blockchain platform. Now, Hedera's keys currently aren't quantum secure, but their hashing and encryption mechanisms, they already meet quantum resistant standards. So they're really taking a proactive approach, which shows they're serious about future-proofing the platform.
It's a smart move, especially with quantum computing advancing so rapidly. So let's zoom out for a second and look at Hedera's success in the bigger picture of the blockchain world. We've seen a resurgence in US-based blockchain projects lately, things like XRP Stellar and, of course, Hedera. What do you think is driving that trend?
Well, there are a few things happening. The regulatory landscape in the U.S. is getting clearer, which gives more certainty and comfort to institutions that want to work with blockchain technology. And there's a growing realization that we need blockchain solutions that meet specific regulatory requirements, especially in finance.
And it looks like Hedera is in a great position to benefit from this shift, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Their focus on regulatory compliance and building an institutional-grade infrastructure makes them a very attractive choice for both those traditional financial institutions and large enterprises. They're not just building a platform that's technologically advanced, but also one that aligns with the evolving regulatory landscape.
It's a powerful combination, and it's clearly working for them. We've seen Hedera doing incredibly well in the market. Their 24-hour trading volume has even surpassed Solana on some days, which says a lot about the growing adoption and confidence in the ecosystem.
It's a really exciting time to be following Hedera's journey. Their roadmap is full of possibilities. One of the things everyone's waiting for is Hedera 2.0.
Yeah, the mysterious Stader 2.0. We don't have much information yet, but the anticipation is definitely building. What can you tell us about this big upgrade?
Well, we don't have all the details yet, but we can look at the community discussions and Hedera's statements so far. It looks like the upgrade will try to address some community concerns, potentially things like network governance and token distribution.
Those are definitely hot topics in the community. Any hints about new features?
There's been some talk about enhanced scalability, better security features, maybe even cross-chain functionality.
Blockchain functionality would be huge, wouldn't it? It would let Hedera connect seamlessly with other blockchain ecosystems.
Absolutely. It would open up so many new opportunities for interoperability and collaboration. Hedera's reach and potential would just explode.
So besides Hedera 2.0, what other trends should we be watching for in the Hedera ecosystem? What's coming up that could push their growth even further?
One of the big things to watch is institutional adoption. As more institutions realize the potential of Hedera, we'll likely see more investment, more participation, and the development of new use cases. Just imagine Hedera's technology being used for things like supply chain management, healthcare, data security, even government services. The possibilities are enormous.
It's incredible to think about the real-world impact Hedera could have in all those different areas.
And as the ecosystem grows, it attracts more developers, entrepreneurs, innovators, which just makes everything move even faster. It's a positive feedback loop, pushing the platform towards its full potential.
And we can't forget about the technology itself constantly evolving. We've talked about their smart approach to quantum resistance. What other technological innovations might we see in the future?
Well, one thing that's really exciting to me is the integration of AI and machine learning into the Hedera ecosystem. We're already seeing the early stages of that, like with Serial Finance's AI-driven risk management.
It makes you wonder how AI could change DeFi, right? Imagine algorithms handling complex tasks, providing financial advice tailored to you, or even spotting and stopping risks before they become a problem.
Exactly. AI has the potential to make DeFi easier, more efficient, and more secure for everyone. And it's not just about DeFi either. AI could improve so many different parts of the Hedera ecosystem, from optimizing how the network performs to creating totally new applications.
Sounds like Hedera is in a good spot to lead this kind of technological convergence.
Yeah.
And you mentioned new consensus mechanisms earlier. Hedera's Hashgraph consensus is already super fast and secure, but there's always room for improvement, right?
Of course. The search for better, faster, more secure consensus mechanisms, that's a constant in the blockchain world. Hedera has always been innovative, so I wouldn't be surprised if they keep pushing the boundaries.
So Hedera has a lot going for it.
Hmm.
We've got strong technology, a growing ecosystem, a forward-thinking approach, and a clear vision for what's next. So here's a question for you and for our listeners. Could Hedera actually become the top blockchain ecosystem for DeFi and everything else?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's a good one. Hedera is definitely a strong contender. They're doing amazing work, and their progress is really impressive. But the blockchain world moves fast, and the competition is fierce.
It's a race to the top, and the rules are always changing. In the end, it's the users who decide which platforms succeed.
And that's what makes it so exciting. It's all about innovation collaboration, everyone working towards a more decentralized future. Hedera is playing a key part in shaping that future, and it's going to be fascinating to see where they go from here.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from the ins and outs of DeFi and NFTs to the big trends that are changing the entire blockchain industry. I hope you've learned a lot about the Hedera ecosystem, its potential, and how it's shaping the future of decentralized technology. And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into this amazing world. Until next time, happy diving.